principal panels, which is our final principal panels as well. And today, we will be listening from Dr. Ketut Putra Irawan. We have already met Dr. Ketut yesterday, yeah. And then we will have Professor Dr. Brandon Ho, and then we will have Ms. Sionanda Lin, yeah. And then this session will be shared by Assistant Professor Dr. Napisa Waitun Kiat. Dr. Napisa is also the Dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences, Naresuan University, our co-host. Yeah, so please welcome our panels with a round of applause, please. So, Doctor, I will hand over the stage to you, yeah? Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So I'm very honored to be here and always love to come back here in the South and, see a great friend, Dr. Busapong, Dr. Kusama, and Dr. Sisampom, and everyone here. Very familiar face. So I think today, in our panel, as you see, if you notice, we do not have the theme of the panel. Why is that? Because we do peace in comparative perspective. And so this panel will provide you the insight from 3 different cases from the Aceh, Indonesia, and the Timor-Leste, and also Burma, Myanmar. Before we begin, I would like to briefly provide you the information, the bio of 3 renowned scholars here. The first, I will go by the order of the panel. The first one is Dr. Ketut Irawan. He's a renowned scholar and researcher on peace issues. He is currently the Executive Director of the Institute for Peace and Democracy, the implementing agency of Bali Democracy Forum. He's also a lecturer at Udayana University. So I really have a hard time, providing a really concise bio information of these 3 people, especially Brendan. I'm like, when they said, oh, I have to talk about Brandon bio, and I'm like, gosh, that's going to be tough. Yeah, it's really long. So I'm going to just briefly, be precise. So Dr. Brandon Howe is a dean and professor of the Graduate School of International Studies, Ewha Women's University, South Korea, and where he has also served 2 terms as Associate Dean and Department Chair. He is also currently the President of Asian Political and International Studies Association, APISA here, the logo, and Honorary Ambassador of Public Diplomacy and Advisor for the Korean Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He has held visiting professorships and research fellowships at the East-West Center, where he is currently enjoying a 2nd term as postco visiting research fellow, and Also at the FRE, I'm not sure if I pronounced correctly, FRE Universitat Berlin, De La Salle University, Philippines, and University of Sydney, Korea National Defense University, Georgetown University, University Malaysia Sarawak, and Beijing Foreign Studies University. And also, he has so many long lists of what he has done and achieved. And please visit the website of PISA. He's currently the editor, right? The editor too. So, and he's also the president of PISA. And the last one, very interesting. Sonanda Lin is a doctorate student at Center of Asian Community Studies, Faculty of Social Sciences, Naresuan University in Thailand. She has an MA from Chiang Mai University. She is a long-term consultant for the World Bank. She worked inside the reform process in Myanmar up until 2021 coup. So we are very honored to have our panelists here with us today and to tell, the insight of each case. So please join me, give a big hand to our panelists. Thank you.
I need to stand up just to make myself. Oh, can I? Yeah, I think they already loaded. Can anybody help me to find where is the? Okay, waiting for the PowerPoint. I always be reminded by my students that if you present PowerPoint, please remember the point. Otherwise, it is only point, only power. Okay, my name is Iketut Putra Irawan. Yesterday, we already discussed about the framework, and today I will try to apply to the second cases I was tasked to review, which is the case of Aceh. In the beginning, when I review the case of Aceh, it seems like everything is just like a calm water of the South China Sea. It's calm, but when you check in the bottom, it is gulf with so many current. That current I try to explore a little bit. What is that and how we understand it. The topic is about centripetal peace, field in Aceh, embedded power, and reshaping recognition. There are two pictures. One is about the beauty of Aceh Sea, and the other is collection of weapons of Aceh. So that is Aceh. We see surface, nice, but down there, weapons. Be careful. Is it working? Hello? This one? Yeah? Oh, point to here? No, it doesn't. No. Okay. Basically, what I tried to say is that whether yeah, we just yeah, it's work. Oh, it's already working. Okay. Six focus, but basically only two, three, four main point. This is some of the main question I I tried to propose when I present, I prepared the paper. Aceh has granted the possibility of wider autonomy and special Islamic identity as well as develop local political parties. Why? What evolves, whether it is evolves and develop indigenously. Did power sharing ground in the period of peacemaking save the path dependent of for peace building processes? That's the argument I try to develop. Whether the MOU signed by the movement and Indonesian government shaped the future of Aceh. This article proposed an argument of the need to evaluate the working of field of power and also field of movement. Those two fields shaping our Aceh cases. This is the point. If I have no time, so at least you know this is my argument. Aceh, and we located it is between negative peace, but moving steadily into the middle, not to the positive peace, but in the middle, somewhere stuck there. So my understanding is that power sharing during the negative peace and power of struggle for social justice make the Aceh situation stuck in the middle. That's my argument. Okay, let's check the first argument. The constitutionalism, which is meaning that Aceh was given all of the special autonomy, right to manage their economy, rights to manage their authority, and ability to conduct control internally in their territory. But also Aceh, part of Indonesian unitary state. The Aceh Regional Party is a part embedded in our national party system. Presidential system of Indonesia is also part of structure need to be what do you call it? Grounded how Aceh dynamic will be. So constitutionalism meaning that giving Aceh autonomy to be itself, face centripetalism, the need to become inclusive under unitary state that make the situation of Aceh become negative peace, but that negative peace become negative peace meaning that peace which is focused on fear of free of violence and fear of violence. Okay. This is the embedded power. One, as I mentioned before, it is rooted historically. So fit with the argument of historical institutionalism or argument of discursive institutionalism. It is embedded with the MOU during the sign of Aceh peace. One, and that MOU, the agreement signed at Helsinki. One is that religious symbols, Aceh will be given a religious symbol including a flag, a crest, and a hymn. Article 1.15. Canon, in Indonesia we call it kanun. Kanun is a local law. Yeah, local law, local decision basically will be reestablished. The last one is Wali Nagro with all its ceremonial attributes entitlement will be established. Wali Nagro is kind of it's not head of state, but head of the region, head of the land. This controversial between whether it is head of state because the movement asked for the head of state, but they got head of the structure called head of the region or head of the land, or Wali Nagru, Wali Nangru. I'm sorry. as I mentioned before, the president election, regional distribution requirement of presidential election, as well as political party system under Indonesian government. Indonesia has a centralized quote-unquote party system. We can have local party, but need to be part unitary element, where the requirement of party system is that one, you need to have a secretary general and connected to Jakarta, and it need to be followed the state, the Indonesian law on political party system. Second, financial management. Even it is given autonomy to manage around 70 or 60% of their oil and all of natural resources, Aceh need to follow national government financial law. It's quite strict in terms of management in detail. The new law, which is called Omnibus Law is basically to manage between economic relationship between central and local government. Omnibus Law, why it is called Omnibus Law? Omnibus Law is a combination of 70 law in Indonesia. When one law called Omnibus created, it repealed another 71. It put into one law. It's so big. It's more than 1,200 pages. You can imagine how many articles manage there. It manages everything. And particularly one which is complained by Indonesian local authority right now, central government has the authority or to manage the tata ruang. Tata ruang means is like space. Space. When the space managed by central government means everything. That's the complaint of local government. Okay. This is the struggle of Aceh now. Yeah. Aceh, as I mentioned before, is moving to the middle between negative peace to the positive peace. What shape is this concern? The law number 22, 1999, the implementation of special status of special region of Aceh, and replaced by extensive autonomy for special provinces of Aceh or Nanggroe Aceh Darussalam. These two laws make Aceh in limbo. Why? There are several questions now. Because as mentioned before, the decision at an MOU is so general. The detail, the devil is in the detail. There is a proverb. The detail now need to be negotiated between central government and local authority in more precise way. And what the thing complicate is we have several presidents from Habibie into Abdul Mahwan Wahid and Megawati. That's the interregnum before Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono. Each three presidents, maybe four, including Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono, has different interpretation about the law. Let me give an illustration. Habibie, he is a technocrat. He said, whatever is the right of people at the Aceh, give it. And we should listen international community also. We should listen Indonesian also. Let's negotiate. Because he was trained as a German engineer, his way of thinking is, okay, we solve it. We come to the table, discuss it, and finalize it. And he assigned some of his technocrat, most of professor, the well-known one, to develop law of Aceh. That is Habibie. He was replaced by Abdurrahman Wahid. Abdurrahman Wahid is a well-known leaders of Islamic movement called Nahdlatul Ulama. His kind of thinking is much more like NGO leaders. He's so relaxed. Gave it to Aceh. Whatever he said, he wants. Whatever Aceh wants. Flags, hymns, crest, give it. It's just cultural symbol. The army element not seeing that way. Because for them, flag, crest, hymn is identity of nation. No nation has another nation inside. So between Abdurrahman Wahid and the army, there are differences in the way of perceiving what's supposed to be mean symbolic. Under Megawati, that's our third president, she has a tendency to centralize. Totally different with Abdurrahman Wahid. So national government need to be abode of all regionalism. All of the region, including Aceh, if for instance I have a special autonomy, need to be respected as a part of Indonesia like other provinces. The swing now to be centripetal, not concessional. Okay. And SBY, a general, some people say that he is a thinking general. He has a moderate position. Let's negotiate. Let's discuss all of the issues. Because he likes to discuss a lot of things. Many people say that he is really putting democracy on the foundation of his. But some people say that he never finished anything because we always discuss. Okay. There are three concerns, particularly related to Sharia courts and Sharia bylaws. Sharia means Islamic basis to manage region. One concern, particularly the women movement on social justice, saying that and demanding that be careful with the blank check of Sharia court and Sharia law, because for this women movement or human rights movement, they have concern on possibility of religious conservatism and fundamentalism will color the understanding of what is Sharia means. And there are a lot of pull and push on redefinition of what is Sharia law mean. The second concern related to social justice but different takes is ethnic minorities. Yeah, researching Aceh, I found out there are several Aceh, Gayo, Alas, and so many others minorities beside the majority of Acehnese. So the question is that how far is the Aceh will provide possibility of other small minorities, ethnic group in Aceh to be respected, just like women and children. That's the second concern. One of the things is that the debate is about a flag. It's funny thing. When the Nagru Aceh Darussalam, which is head, which is Tengku Cek Ditiro, stated that, okay, now we put the flag in every part of Aceh. But minorities like Alas and Gayo said that, no, you cannot put in our land because your flag representing not Aceh in total, but that majority flag. So they said that we will take it out. So central government need to be in the middle, negotiating between minority and majority concern inside of the Aceh case. The last one, which is this is my own thinking, is that why central government is so careful to let Aceh has their special autonomy, authority and identity based on Sharia, because that possibility can become a precedent of other cases like Papua to demand the same treatment. If flag, which is quote-unquote rebellious flag, was able to be accepted and be put in every part of the region, what about Papua flag? So, but the flag behind that is symbolizing authority and sovereignty. The issue is not authority and identity anymore, but sovereignty. So the case of president, whatever case in Aceh, is always embedded or nested in another cases called Papua, called Kalimantan, called other Riau. In 1998 also tried to play the independence card. So independence card can be played reflecting the case of Aceh. So Aceh is so important for any part of Indonesia, including Papua. So let me conclude by saying that Aceh Peacefield is in the middle between power sharing, rooted in the MOU at Helsinki, but also it is a struggle for social justice currently played intersectionally embedded in women issues, human rights, right of Papua, maybe international concern of right of minorities. And that's maybe explain why positive peace is still an aspiration and still a dream for many parts of the world. Let me putting the picture of Aceh Sea, and that one is the door. It's still halfway closed. Hopefully it is open soon for Aceh to be truthful peace. Thank you.
Okay, now we're gonna see. We already hear the case of Aceh. Now we're gonna learn about the case of Timor Leste.
Okay, well, first of all, let me thank all of the organizers that have contributed to such an amazing conference. I've been so impressed by not only the organization, but the breadth of invitees to this conference. And I understand that it was done in a very short time frame. Having organized quite a few conferences myself, I am in awe of the conference organizers, and I'm very grateful to be here, and I look forward to discussing with all of you in the future. Now, I think I may have bitten off more than I can chew with this presentation, because I initially thought, well, the conference theme is peace and development, so I need to address peace and development. Okay. And then, of course, I'm part of a panel that's looking at positive peace and negative peace. Okay, so I can address that as well. And then I thought, but actually I'm really interested in hybridization of approaches, of disciplines, of liberal peace, illiberal peace, of the global and the local, and all of these apply to my case study as well. So, okay, I better address that. Also, I'm very interested in human security and broad definitions of human security and narrow definitions of human security and regional perspectives on human security. So I thought I'll include some of that as well. And then I think I was up to about 26 slides, and I only have 20 minutes to present. So I started hacking them down a bit, and then yesterday I was also deleting as many of my notes as possible. But hopefully I can fit all this in and still say something interesting about Timor-Leste. So please do bear with me, because this is an important case. It's held up as the poster child for successful UN peace building and nation building. It's seen as the greatest example, and it's in our Southeast Asian region. So it's perfect for us to look at, hopefully, positive peace. However, as Ketut pointed out in his presentation yesterday, actually, yeah, it's still got a ways to go. We're making slow and incremental progress, but there's still a lot of challenges. So Southeast Asia, as we all know, is a region deeply affected by conflict and conflictual legacies, whether colonial legacies, Cold War legacies, territorial, ideological, religious, or resource conflicts. Throughout the region, a premium is placed on economic development, with rapid success combined with high levels of industrialization, urbanization, and modernization. So far, so good. But despite dramatic progress in economic development and governance, major challenges to peace and human security endure. In some cases, these have been exacerbated by national security and development policy making. And I think this is an important area that we need to draw out in our program, how many of these governance approaches that we see as successful have actually stored up trouble for the future. Among the most serious challenges in the region are, of course, conflict and the legacy of conflict, poverty, environmental degradation, natural or nature-induced disasters, where the natural disasters are made worse by human agency. So each of these threatens peace and human security individually, but also through interaction with each other, they can serve as insecurity multipliers. So my research project deconstructs the negative and counterproductive impact of state-centric security and development foci, while broadening the analysis of human security contributions to include conflict drivers from the arena of human development. So that's where you get more into the positive piece and distributive justice. In other words, I'm looking at the spillover between traditional and non-traditional security perspectives, and I expand this along both the vertical axis of subject, so up to the global biosphere, down to individual vulnerable human beings, and also the horizontal axis of new issues being added to our understanding of peace and security. So, distributive injustices, in particular, can not only undermine human security of the most vulnerable, but through these processes can also undermine the security of regimes, of national security, and even international security. So only holistic approaches to deal with this complex web of causality and insecurity have any chance of succeeding. So I'm going to also introduce, if I have time, the humanitarian development peace nexus, which focuses on positive peace as well as negative peace, and on sustainable human security. So I'm going to skip through these next few slides very quickly. I'm sure you're all aware of the liberal peace building model, the principles of hoping for peace, some would say the idealistic approach to peace. And these are the pillars of the liberal peace building model. As I said, I am aware that I'm going to be short of time, so I'm going to skip over these fairly quickly. Now, the major criticisms of this liberal peace-building paradigm, and remember, this is embodied at the United Nations. This is what they applied to Timor-Leste. The major criticisms are that the values that are translated and transmitted from the global discourse to practical implementation on the ground may differ. That the values of external actors and domestic actors may differ. The second problem is the hegemony of ideas. That there's a tendency to ignore the local actors, local processes, and local values. That we impose an external solution. So this is the alien imposition, which is seen as not only illegitimate, and this, even in the supposedly poster child case study of Timor-Leste, increasingly the UN processes were seen as illegitimate, but also because of this illegitimacy, ineffective. Of course, we also see that the liberal peace-building paradigm championed at the UN and by Western states does not live up to its universal aspirations. We're very selective in when we decide to apply the liberal peace-building model. So, in particular, Southeast Asian communities are sensitive to neo-imperialism masquerading as this universal concern for human rights or universal values, Grotianism. In particular, culturally, it ignores the specific cultural traditions and historical circumstances of Asian societies, politically accuses the West of using concepts for advancing Western economic or security concerns. Economically, it's long been held priority of developing Southeast Asian societies is the eradication of poverty. And yet, we don't seem to deal with that as a priority when it comes to liberal peace building. I'm dropping things all over the place here. So there's also the problem of short-termism. This was particularly a problem with the UN peace building in Cambodia, which is also seen as a potential good peace building experience, but certainly the state building experience did not last when the UN pulled out and democracy disappeared. The problem is that it requires a lot of long-term investment and involvement. On the other hand, there is a danger of romanticizing the local. We can't say the local is always better. So this is where we get back to hybridity. We need to take the best from both. We need to move beyond the dichotomy of external and indigenous, or global and local. So that's why I look at hybridization of lots of different approaches. So I think I'm going to skip over a lot of the post-conflict peace-building perspectives, because again, you can find a lot of this in the literature. And the fundamental idea is that although a successful conflict resolution may bring about the conclusion of an armed conflict, this is by no means the end of the peace process. Post-conflict reconstruction is a critical part of peace building in contemporary international peace supporting activities. So my case today considers a focus on post-conflict reconstruction as a necessary condition for enduring and comprehensive peace. So the birth of the new nation was a traumatic one. The first task of peace building, of course, was to put an end to the killings and provide safe havens to allow people to return home. 75% of the population of 800,000 had been displaced. Nearly 70% of all houses had been destroyed. Many people had been killed. Order was fairly swiftly restored by several battalions of Australian and New Zealand troops, later reinforced by UN peacekeepers. The state-building project of the United Nations allowed the East Timorese to take over their own administration, to a certain extent, by May 2002, but UN peacekeeping troops returned in 2006 after a failed military coup, led to social and political instability. We also saw significant outbreaks of violence recurring during the build-up to and after elections in 2007. President Jose Ramos Horta was critically injured in an assassination attempt on the 11th of February 2008. Another failed coup again led to the Australian reinforcements to keep order. But, ultimately, the objective of the international community, the initial objective, to put an end to the killings and the general state of insecurity, thereby allowing people to return home, appears to have drawn to a successful conclusion in Timor-Leste. In 2012, the year in which only the 10th anniversary of the new founded independence was celebrated, Timor-Leste was able to hold 3 sets of free and fair elections, 2 presidential, 1 parliamentary, without significant disruption. And so the UN peacekeepers proceeded to withdraw as scheduled in December 2012. So that's why this is seen as a benchmark for UN peacekeeping operations and state-building efforts. But the peace-building focus in the case of Timor has left efforts at providing freedom from want, particularly for the poorest sections of society, lagging dramatically behind provision of havens of safety free from fear. So the case study demonstrates the need to pursue all 3 sides of the human security triangle. So freedom from fear, freedom from want, freedom to live in dignity. And in particular to include or incorporate concepts of positive peace. There are ongoing security challenges. There's potential transition towards exclusionary or authoritarian politics in Timor-Leste, perceived heavy-handedness of indigenous security forces. This is probably sounding very familiar to many people here. Demographic challenges due to a population growth which is the fastest in Asia and among the fastest in the world. So actually the opposite demographic time bomb to the one we're facing in Northeast Asia. We have a distorted demographic curve due to a large young generation, while many older generations perished during the struggle against Indonesia. So a huge youth bulge facing major underemployment and unemployment problems. As a result, the youth have become heavily involved with so-called martial art groups, some of which have taken on the characteristics of violent armed gangs, and these groups have exacerbated and inflamed every crisis since independence, and indeed they're being utilized by securitizers, by political entrepreneurs looking for some muscle. So the stimulus for the young Timorese to join these groups is, of course, primarily economic. The shockingly high unemployment and underemployment, as high as 70% amongst the youth. So we have to return to the notion of spillover between underdevelopment and insecurity, and between human and national security considerations, a positive peace. So what about freedom from want? We've stopped the killings, so freedom from fear is reasonable progress. Freedom from want, well, the World Bank has noted that the economic development of Timor-Leste is nothing short of remarkable. It now ranks as a lower middle income country with a high rate of economic growth. But there are some caveats. First, this has been achieved on the back of a tremendous influx of aid, international investment, and petrodollars from its oil fund. And of course, we're starting from a very low base. Second, as shown by the very high unemployment and underemployment rates, this wealth has not been evenly distributed. And third, as a result of these 2 caveats, there remain a great number of challenges to the human security of the most vulnerable, and therefore sources of potential future instability, especially when combined with pretty high rates of corruption. So again, we have not achieved positive peace. There are severe inequalities in distribution, especially for rural areas when compared with the capital, Dili, and indeed with the human security of women and other vulnerable groups. I'm going to skip over this because I see I'm running out of time, and I've already crossed all this out in my notes, so I can skip over this. Time for another diagram. Hybrid peace building. Way too small a font, I think, for anyone to read. But don't worry, it can be found in textbooks. So I'm going to move on faster and faster. So the pillars of the UN. You're all familiar. Security is the first pillar. Development is the second pillar. Human rights is the third pillar. And we've done quite a lot of work at the level of global, national, and local governance in addressing intersections of these pillars. Usually only two of these pillars, though. Human security, especially my understanding of human security, is found at the intersection of all three of these pillars. And we have not done a good job at addressing holistically and comprehensively this. So the notion of the humanitarian development peace nexus has been introduced as another form of hybridization. So the humanizing of peace building, governance, international relations, the consideration of the intersections of other pillars of the UN. This is not a new issue at the UN. Successive secretaries general have identified the need for us to do so. UN Secretary General Kofi Annan, for instance, referenced the interrelatedness of the three pillars of the UN by noting, "We will not enjoy security without development, development without security, and neither without respect for human rights. Unless all these causes are advanced, none will succeed." So he summed up the problems of not focusing on all three pillars collectively. The HDPN is an attempt to do so. In 2016, the UN General Assembly and the UN Security Council took the unusual step of adopting twin resolutions for sustaining peace as both a goal and a process to build a common vision of society, ensuring that the needs of all segments of the population are taken into account, which encompasses activities aimed at preventing the outbreak, escalation, continuation, and really importantly, the recurrence of conflict. The Interagency Standing Committee highlighted that crises, whether conflicts, disasters, or socioeconomic shocks, often cannot be solved by one set of actions alone, and in addressing them, humanitarian, development, and peace actions all have important roles to play. So the HDPN is a holistic approach to providing for the safety and well-being of vulnerable individuals and groups. It is not, or at least it should not be viewed as a sequential approach. We must tackle all of these challenges together lest they be undermined. So again, you've got the three pillars of the HDPN. Again, the problem is that we tend to have focused on only two of these pillars at any one time. We haven't taken the holistic step of addressing all three simultaneously. Humanitarian development and peace-building initiatives have tended to be top-down, donor or international actor-driven, reliant upon aggregate measurements of development and governance, siloed. That means they're pursued independently of one another. So peace-building focuses on the intersection between security and development and on the intersection between humanitarianism and peace-building, but not the relationship between development and human rights or that of humanitarian and development intersections of the HDPN. The domination of the liberal peace-building paradigm is subject to the criticisms I've already leveled at it. So more needs to be done to bridge the divides between all three sides of the HDPN, to increase the human-centered holistic focus by focusing on the intersection of the three UN pillars, and to increase support for humanitarian initiatives. So, conclusion. The operationalization of this holistic approach needs us to simultaneously encompass all the intersections and comprehensive governance, including all the relevant actors, but also take a human-centered approach. The IASC, the Interagency Standing Committee, distinguishes between little p actions focused on building the capacity for peace within societies and big P actions that support and sustain political solutions and securitized responses to violent conflict. Both little p and big P approaches are relevant and important, but working through a little p approach, in particular at the local level, to address key drivers in the short to intermediate term, may create more opportunities across the HDPN and also enables vulnerable populations to be targeted through direct programming. I think we should actually not just have little p and big P, we should have lowercase HDPN as well as uppercase HDPN. So this is where we get to the final conceptualization of hybridity. And that's all I got for you.
Shall I start? สวัสดีค่ะ Assalamu alaikum. Mingalava. Good morning, esteemed professors, distinguished guests, participants. I'm honored to be here to present about my country. So the possibilities for peace in Burma or Myanmar, it's actually quite challenging to cover but especially the historical perspective of the country's conflict. But I will try my best. So before I deliver my presentation, I would like to highlight some pictures on this slide. So the first one, the top one, is the airstrike by the military in Laogai. It's in China-Burma border area in Kachin State. And another one is a lady's hand holding a gun. She's a young lady. She had a peaceful life in the city, like other normal young people. But she joined the People Defense Forces to resist the military. She is now in the jungle. So another one who is holding a drone. So he's an engineer. A young engineer who hasn't completed his bachelor's degree. But he is like, these days, young people, they are watching the YouTube, they can create something. So by starting from the handmade, the small thing, to this kind of drone. So now like 3D printers, etc., with the support of people to people, they can create this drone. So that is to attack the military aircraft. So the last one is the military. So it is known as Damaro. But I would say Damaro is kind of like in direct translation, it is kind of like great army. It is not great army for people. So I will call them Sita. Sita is quite brutal. So it has a sense of brutality. So I will use this terminology, SITA, in my presentation. I have organized my presentation into 5 parts. So I will provide the historical context, which is very crucial to understand, which is the foundation of the conflict in Myanmar these days. And we cannot forget about the military dominance in politics and economy throughout decades since the colonial time. And the key features of People Defense Forces, especially, and ethnic armies, and most importantly, the severity of the conflict, how severe it is. And if we talk about Burma, we have to address China, who is the influential country to Myanmar in terms of like both politics, economy, and people's life. And I will try my best to conclude. It is very hard, but I will try to provide a key message related to how a path to peace can be achieved. So this is the post-colonial government. Of course, there are many issues, but I will highlight some key points. The first is that post-colonial government, led by Prime Minister UNU, the first Prime Minister, he is kind of like a Buddhist guy. So who actually endorsed the Buddhism as the nation's religion. So the first challenge they face is that the communist and ethnic insurgency, because before the independence, General Aung San, who is father of Aung San Suu Kyi, he negotiated with the ethnic groups, so especially Karen, Kachin, Shan, and Chin. So, but the promise has been broken right after the independence. Then the ethnic insurgency emerged. And we have to think about that there were like a frequent changes in leadership as well. I don't see this issue addressed in many academic papers, which covers the historical perspective of Myanmar. But for me, I think this is very important. It is quite unstable. So that is why there are like 2 pictures of UNU and 2 pictures of General Ne Win. So in this period, they have the party split, anti-fascist party split. This is also a key event. So and UNU, the Prime Minister UNU, he approached General Ne Win to hold the power. He just resigned from the party for a while. And he relied on General Ne Win to gain the power again. So General Ne Win, as a caretaker government, yes, he said that yes, I will take care of the country, and then I will hand the power over to UNU. After that, so after like 2 years, UNU could retain the power. However, General Ne Win, this is the turning point in our history of the military rule. So this is from Bump of General Ne Win. So you will see that they addressed from 1962 until 1988. General Ne Win, General Ne Win took the power. So he practiced one-party socialist state under Burma Socialist Program Party, BSPP, known as Burmese Way to Socialism. It's Ne Win's way to socialism, so it's different from other types of socialism. So many industry has been nationalized. So here, at this point, one important thing I would like to highlight is the reason that Ne Win took the coup. It was also because of the military budget. So at the parliament, under the parliamentary democracy, military, they had to deal with the parliamentarians. So he was upset, and the gang, the top generals as well. So that is also one of the reasons. And then he practiced control and command economy. And finally, what happened was that at the end of 1988, so the country has become, once it was one of the richest countries in Southeast Asia. Then at the end of 1988, it's one of the poorest country. Then 1988 uprising happened. So in that period, another major kind of like the policy made by General Ne Win was the abolish of some bank notes because of the astrologer. So General Ne Win is like his lucky number is 9. So he abolished some bank notes like 25 jet, etc. Then millions of people will suffer of that policy, including my family. Of course, many across the country. So, and then in 1988, General Ne Win actually, he didn't take responsibility. Many from military as well as the civilian, they, of course, if he already did all these messy things, but he has the responsibility. But he didn't take responsibility. He just kind of like he handed over. He let other guys to handle it, his mess. So General Somong is one of the generals. He was the commander-in-chief in 1988 and 1997. Then among the top leadership of the military, they also had the similar to the party split during the post-colonial government. They also had that problem. And then he was actually removed by providing him like a tranquilizer, the tablet, the pill, and then he became kind of like unconscious. That is happening to him. And then in Senior General Deng Shui group, they took the power from 1997 until 2010. So during that period, there are key issues that we have to remember. So the emergence of the military's dominance in economy. So they established 2 key military-owned companies. So the soldiers from top rank until the lower rank, there is somewhat amount deducted from their salary. So that's the way that they manage these 2 companies, and they are the dominance in various sectors, especially mining, the extractive industry areas, agriculture and manufacturing. And cronyism and nepotism emerged. So until today. But throughout the period, all governments, both the post-colonial and the military government, they never addressed the root cause of the problem of the ethnic conflicts. So multiple unsolved conflict left for another government. We had 2007 Saffron Revolution before 2010 general election. So this is kind of like the period where people can enhance freedom of speech, freedom of criticism, and I was also very happy to work with government institutions during these 2 periods, like in total like 10 years, a decade. So transition from military rule. Now there are a lot of criticism. Yeah, so the generals they see the Indonesia as their kind of like a model. Yeah, so change the uniform and as a civilian, but 25% are in the parliament. So they still have the power. So yeah, but we acknowledge that their reforms laid the groundwork of the democratization for another period, another 5 years for another government. But the progress often hindered by resistance of the hardliners in the military, because the ministers are actually once the generals. So in 2015 general election, NLD won the landslide victory. So, but they have many limitations to exercise their authority because of the 25% of military in the parliament, as well as the hardliners, especially for the peace negotiation with the ethnic armed organizations. And the military still retained the significant control of key institutions like home affairs, and defense, of course, and general administration of the country. So it failed. So at the end of the period, we can say that it failed to effectively address the root causes, especially of the Rohingya cases. So NLD government, especially Daw Aung San Suu Kyi, was criticized by the international communities that she kind of like stand for the military. So these are the historical context of the country since the post-colonial until 2021 military coup. So in 2021, yeah, the reason that the military took the power, their reason was that it is not free and fair election, so they did not acknowledge the result of the election. But the real thing is that the sitter, actually, they already had a significant role in political landscape and economy as well. They didn't want to lose this opportunity. In 2008 constitution, which was actually drafted by the military before 2010 election, so the sitter's role in governance is quite significant. And they still control over land, natural resources, and a range of businesses, including telecommunication during the civilian government period. So they have the telecom company, which is also, I think, allied with the Viettel in Vietnam. It's Mytel. And the sitter-owned companies and often won tenders called by the government agencies. For example, like solar projects, yes, it's owned by the cronies companies or military-owned companies. So this is what is happening in Myanmar now. So the key features of the resistance. So the first I would like to highlight is the civilian-led armed groups. Now, the formation of People Defense Forces, these are civilian. Young people, young to like a mid-age like me, and the supporters. And civilian leadership is a like decentralized structure. It's very hard, but they are still struggling and they are trying. And there is a command of change developed by the National Unity Government, the parallel government. So their role is to support them, kind of like a facilitator or organizer, a coordinator. So it's diverse. So all ethnic cities, so from Shan, Kachin, Kairani, so they form the People Defense Forces together according to the geographical location. So it's quite diverse. And the second thing I would like to highlight, the ethnic solidarity. So what we see is that especially since like 2020 last year and this year, we have three brotherhood alliance, which is the alliance between three ethnic armies. So they are quite strong, and they also support the civilian-led armed groups. So, sorry. And another key event since last year, is the Operation 1027. It's the 27th October. So the operation led by these three ethnic armies, so invaded one city to another. So civilians these days are like watching news and how many cities are under now, the ethnic armies, the aircraft was shot by the drone, yay, so kind of like that. So they have the expertise in guerrilla warfare. This is quite crucial. So, and quite supportive. And ethnic solidarity strengthened the resistance movement and made it more resilient. And diaspora support. This is also very crucial. Like for example, like we have a huge migrant workers, Burmese migrant workers from Myanmar living here. They have like let's say like average 8,000, 10,000 baht, but they keep they don't like contributing somewhat amount of their income for this movement. So this is just only one example. So like Singapore, Malaysia, US, UK, around the world, Europe as well. So because Myanmar case is quite different from other countries. We don't have UN support. We don't have, US. Yes, US like kind of like Burma Act, like 200 million support. But that's the humanitarian aid. But what we need is to support the resistant groups. So the majority of the support come from this source. And yes, advocacy and lobbying is also important. Although people do not that much, into this, but still, yeah, advocacy is still important because international community, it's also, important. And another important thing is that military's propaganda. So in like old days, during 1988, yeah, there were protests. There were like a student movement. Some also joined the ethnic armies. However, after three or 4 years, country kind of like become like a normal under the military rule. So still struggle, but not like these days. These days, like because of the technology. So if the military keep like developing the propaganda, but we have the counter attack from the civilian as well. So even the lower rank and in the army as well as the higher ranks, for example, like wives of the general, they use Facebook. So they know all these things. So, and civil disobedience movement. So I used to work with many civil servants from a range of public institutions, from home affairs to finance and commerce, many. So since day one of the coup, many civil servants joined the civil disobedience movement. Of course, it's difficult to get the exact number, but it's quite large, especially teachers and healthcare workers. And many from the security sector also joined this movement. Soldiers, police forces. And we also should not forget the role of watermelon. Can you guess what it is? Watermelon is that, yeah, the shell is green. It represents like the military or military ally, like from civil servants, civil service, let's say from ministry, government staff, or even local administrator. But inside they are very red. So this is also one of the reasons that the people were able to attack the military, including the airstrike. So against the airstrike. So and once I talked with some of my like-minded friends about the use of remote sensing data. So let's buy the satellite from the US to see the troop route. Yeah, but it even takes time. But this people-to-people information is quite rapid. So this is the brochure actually promoted just yesterday the role of the watermelon mailbox. So there are like instruction down there, so how they can use it. Because inside the country, Facebook has been banned and other communication apps as well. But it's so funny that some departments of the military's ministries, they still have Facebook pages and which is updated. And people use, of course, VPNs, the other tools. They already had experience in Tan Shui's era in before 2010. So we were not able to use Gmail at the time through the official channel, but we have ways to navigate it, to access to it. And now it's China. So I would like to say that Chinese government and Chinese people are different. Huh? So here I want to talk about Chinese government, their leadership. So this is the map. I just pinned the cities across along the Belt Initiative Road. So you will see that it starts from Rakhine State, then to the central Burma, and then Shan State. And I will explain later why this area is quite important. And the military, Chinese government, they cooperate with the military for arms sales as well. And they position itself as a key player in shaping the landscape of the country's politics. So you will see news about Chinese government these days that the Chinese government asked ASEAN not to intervene in the internal affairs of Burma, but they will do it. They will handle it. This is the severity of the conflict. So during 2010-2020, you will see that a few spots, still there are many conflicts, but not that much. But in 2024, we have out of 330 townships, we have 28 and 287 townships affected by conflict. And fatalities, quite high, you will see that. And by states and region, Sagaing is in the central area. Majority are Burmese, and there are some ethnic like Chin and Kachin as well, but majority are Burman. So it's quite severe. We have 3.4 million internally displaced persons. No? Combined conflict and disaster these days is quite high, and 50% are female, and around 30 are children, and 1.3 million refugees. So this is my key message. So it's very hard to think about peace at the moment. However, yes, there are ways, I do hope, but people resistance, resilient. So in the end, people will continue to fight against CITES, right? If we already had experience throughout our history, trust building. Trust cannot be built until the military relinquish their power and stay away from the politics. So this crucial shift will pave the way for genuine democracy, stability, and lasting peace. Thank you so much.
Wow. Yes. I think we learned in a very comparative perspective from 3 different cases and how to achieve peace in 3 difficult cases and maintain peace, in some case. So I think we have brief 1 or 2 questions because now it's 10:30, right? Yes, I think it's time to open for the floor to ask any questions or comments or suggestions. Yes. Any questions? Please, yes, 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 yes.
Thank you so much for all the presentations. I'd like to ask our presenter from Myanmar, Burma. Okay. It's good that finally you've organized the dynamics and the sources and of sources of power in what's going on now in Myanmar, Burma, and that we all know that the diaspora, especially, is very active and very supportive in the revolutionary. I think we call it also as revolutionary peace that you want to achieve in Myanmar. But then again, recently I had a talk with one of the uh, Myanmar national who is working as a professional in Malaysia, and I was surprised that recently the Myanmar government is doing a double taxation for workers in Malaysia. And the way that they do it, that if the Myanmar national goes to the embassy in Kuala Lumpur to get new passports, they will not only ask you to pay for the passport, that they will actually count, the months and years that you have been working in a Malaysian institution. So it's really double taxation. So I wonder if, how eventually you will overcome, this kind of really, powerful, attempt of the military government, of trying to control the diaspora outside of Myanmar. I know it's, a difficult question, but I guess it's a challenge, for us to bring out, at this point, how do we overcome these challenges when you really have still a very powerful military junta in Myanmar? Thank you.
Thank you. So I think we're gonna collect one more questions. Do we have any questions? Okay, in that case, yes.
ขอบคุณค่ะ this is actually this issue is not only in Malaysia but also especially in Thailand as well. So double taxation, and in addition to that, military conscription law. So military is trying to recruit 5,000 per month. So not only young people, but also now until up to like 65, so the elderly as well. So both women and men. So what will happen is that, yes, the restriction on renewal of the passport is also another issue. So how to overcome? Actually, many will become undocumented because day by day there is a massive flow of migrants, or especially young people from Myanmar fleeing from their home to especially to Thailand. So this is also related to regional stability, I would say. Myanmar issue is kind of like the military, they impose this restriction, they control the people, and then it affects the regional stability. But this is addressed by individual country, but not as kind of like, for example, like ASEAN, how to push this military, how to force the military. Yes, there is like a 5-point consensus, but military did not listen, right? So ASEAN, in my view, is not a strong institution, but because of this regional stability, it's not only this issue, but also other issues such as like illicit drugs, cyber crimes these days. These also should be addressed by the ASEAN. And as an ASEAN, there can be, of course, with the strong leadership of ASEAN countries, like the leading countries, hopefully this can be addressed, at least addressed. But to overcome is still like challenging. And I would say that there can be the effect of these issues will be there can be many undocumented workers or migrants from Myanmar.
Yes. Yes. In the meantime, like oh, okay, great. Yep. Yes.
Okay, thank you to all the presenters. Very interesting presentations by all. Uh, I was just looking at this, how a path to peace can be achieved. And it says that sustainable political solution is achievable when the military steps back from power and stays out of politics. No, that's very nice. Is that going to happen? How can we make that happen? You have somebody already in power, for the longest time, and then in power basically, illegally, by taking over the government. You will not see, that actor stepping back. How to make it happen? I don't know. Short of revolution, short of maybe even using force to bring down, the military in Myanmar. Is that a possibility? I know that there are a lot of things going on the ground, people fighting against the military and all these things, but it boggles the mind to think about, how success is going to happen, and how long the fighting needs to be continued and all those things, and what needs to be done, to do these things. Thinking already, in my mind is already thinking that, things are going to get even more difficult before, it's going to get better, even a little bit better. And there's going to be more sufferings, more killings, more people will die. I have that kind of scenario in my mind, thinking about how to bring down, a power like what we have in Myanmar. That's what I say. Revolution. It's not something that we suggest or some things that we wish for, but in a situation like Myanmar, it's like there's nothing else to do but to do a revolution in Myanmar. The problem is that if you want to do that, who is going to do that? You have all those groups, you have the ethnic armed groups, you have the different rebel groups on the ground, you have the people. The question is, how united are they in order to fight the current regime in Myanmar? And we have lots of refugees in Malaysia from Myanmar. Legally registered with the UNHCR, maybe about 150,000 from all groups. Like Malaysia is like a small Myanmar. You have all the groups there, but they themselves, are not united. They also have their own interests, identity-based interests, and all those things. And there have been fights between these groups, even in Malaysia. So we can see that how are they going to all combine together to bring down, the government, the military regime in Myanmar, when they are also not united. They want to work together among themselves, but nobody wants to work with the Rohingyas and, a lot of these things. So I will stop that.
Yes.
Sorry to ask you this difficult question. I know it's very difficult, but it's something just, to think about.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ajanka, is it about the revolution? Question about Ka.
Yes. Don ka. Yes.
Oh, okay. Hi, Don Patan from the Asia Foundation in Thailand. Quick question on the announcement on the next year's election. What are your hope, if any, or expectation?
Next year
How's that going to carry out? And the second question is about China. The presence of Chinese officials or activities along the Thai border. Has your study drifted into that area? Just wondering. If so, if you could comment on that.
Ka Ajanka. So the election, yes, currently the military council is conducting the household survey for the upcoming, for their so-called election. But even for this survey, there are lots of challenges. Many people did not participate. And you know, so they've been saying that election will be held since day one of the coup. After 6 months, we will have all the election. Then again and again, that they extended the state emergency. So you know, election will be just election, but recently they invited ethnic organization and including PDF, but they left national unity government. So without the inclusivity, then it's impossible. Ethnic armed groups will also not participate. Some maybe, but I don't think that they will. I mean, the trust building has already been broken. So for China. Yes, China, they force, especially the three ethnic armies to have the peace negotiation with ceasefire with the military. So ceasefire means that it's just temporary throughout our history. So without the comprehensive agenda, then and without including so all parties or groups, then it's impossible. People resistance in Myanmar nowadays is quite strong. So thank you.
I think Dr. Ketut would like to provide the insight of the military.
Maybe Brendan can respond on ASEAN, yeah. Okay. On issues of military, Indonesian, as an Indonesian, I need to provide some comparative learning on that issues, because every time I come to Myanmar, the question is that we always follow Indonesian model. And I responded in wrong way. So, meaning that Indonesian military tried to ask Myanmar to conduct a more close two countries discussion about how to reform itself candidly, honestly, about that issues. The question from Askandar is how can we make this statement about militaries need to stay out from politics and economics on the same time? Can Indonesian models give example? Partly, because Indonesian military element, when in 1998 decided itself to pull out from politics and economy, on the same time was led by groups of, we call it reformer military elements. Those military groups stated that now their roles is different. And that's element, I asked one of the leader of that groups, why you are pulling out from parliament? His answer is so out of my mind. He said that we debate the students and they win the argument. And we know justification to be in power. So they got out from power and they was allowed to transform itself into professional military. But their retired military was given a chance to create their own political careers. Some of them creating political parties, some of them build a business like that. The problem is not only military, but the civilian itself, according to some of my military reformers, who always enticing the military to come to the politics and economy. That's the case of Indonesia. So military try to, there are two groups. One is that really want the reformers to lead the idea. The second is more pragmatist. They just follow the path and the wind. And then the case of Papua representing how the military was oftenly taken and then bring back to economy, because Papua has a lot of security issues and the protection need military support. Aceh case more engaging the military. Yes. So my point is that can Myanmar military follow our path. Yes, but the problem is that you not to follow our mistake to be able to entice back to politics and economy.
Okay, briefly, as Ketut invited me to talk about ASEAN, I think the only time that we saw important ASEAN pressure on Myanmar was after Cyclone Nargis. And you had a combination of factors, internal and external pressure on the military government that led to the transition to civilian authority. And you had Western commentators, especially the French and the Australians, talking about an aid invasion of Myanmar in the aftermath of Cyclone Nargis. And you had the Korean Secretary General of the United Nations, Ban Ki-moon, goes to Myanmar and says, look, you're going to have to make some changes. You're going to have to accept assistance. Why don't you accept it from the acceptable partners, which was ASEAN, led by Singapore, and China, and Japan. So again, we've got some more hybridity here. We've got hybridity between the global and the local, between East and West. And I think this is why we shouldn't completely throw out the liberal peacebuilding project. We need to hybridize these different perspectives to get a holistic peace. And same if we're dealing with a very unpleasant regime, we need to hybridize approaches to get that regime removed from politics.
I think the time we don't have time now, but I know like some of the people audience here have a question maybe afterwards. So please come and talk to the panelists individually, because I think like a lot of people are ready to have a break. So please join me to give a big hand to our panelists. Thank you.
Right. So thank you so much to our principal panelists. As much as we want to learn more, but we are restricted by schedule and time. So now we are going to take a very short break, about 5 minutes, and then we will proceed to your respective parallel panel venue. Yeah, it is in Chanmani, Channapha, and Sirirat room, just like yesterday. So you have to take the elevator at the lobby to the 3rd floor. Yeah, and then we will be back here at 2:30 p.m. for closing ceremony. So please do come back for the closing ceremony. Yeah, thank you so much. And also we have the satisfactory survey attached to your name card. Yeah, and we also attach it to the Wi-Fi password. So please scan the code and then do the survey for us. Thank you very much. Please enjoy the break.